Right in my Perfect.
You're all comfortable, the team, everyone's okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't you worry about them.
You let us
They're being
know.
forced here by gunpoint. Hi, everybody.
Let us...
How's everybody? Sorry, my back's to you. Hi, how are you?
We'll turn, right?
I know, yeah. I always feel like I'm...
We have a shot that we sort of have lined up.
Oh, that's great. I just moved the chair and fucked it all up.
Typical talent right away.
Such a diva, trouble. This one.
Yep. Just moved it all out of sight. You know, no problem. No problem.
I hate hearing the sound of my own voice on these things.
Do you?
Yeah, because I think I sound very different than I actually sound.
You think you sound better, and then you hear...
I think I sound like a man, and then I hear my voice, and it's not that.
And then you're like, wait, who's that?
And I'm like, who's that girl? Yeah. She's so cute.
Lesbian bank robber?
That's my style aesthetic.
Is that who it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. More on that later.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll just plant that seed.
It's layered.
And then, we'll get into that. So there's lots of new faces here tonight, and thank you all so much for coming. I'm going to do a quick introduction, and then we'll jump in.
Perfect.
Okay. You
Great.
Good?
I'm perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, hello everyone and welcome. I'm Dennis Scully. I'm the host of the Business of Home podcast, and I'm also the curator of the Dialogues on Design series here at the New York School of Interior Design. Woo! Yes, well, there you go. So, your generous contributions and subscriptions and sponsorships raise money for our scholarship programs, including our diversity scholarship program and our pre-college scholarship program, where we introduce interior design as a career path for young people from often underrepresented communities. I'm grateful to everyone who has helped make this possible. I want to give special thanks to the names behind me who have sponsored and generously donated, and I wonder if we could all give a nice round of applause for all of those people. Their generosity is greatly appreciated by the school and by the students. So, tonight we have a treat, right? I mean...
Snuck in again.
Yeah. So, I have the great pleasure of speaking tonight with interior designer, television personality, podcast host.
Extraordinaire.
I see.
Yeah.
I get it.
Rival.
Biting on me. It's all right. It's all right. It's cool. Occasional fashion model.
No.
Jeremiah Brent. Since launching his firm in 2012, do you want to,
Yeah, I love.
I know you love this. Love as I go through this. So I'm just going to quickly tell you. So Jeremiah's firm, since launching in 2012, has grown dramatically. Offices in New York and LA, doing projects all over the world, work that has earned his firm recognition on the AD 100 list, rooted in his belief that interior design must reflect one's past, present, and future. Jeremiah's work ultimately merges his heartfelt intentionality and forward-thinking vision to create spaces of indelibly singular beauty. Jeremiah recently released his first book, The Space That Keeps You, that isn't just a study of beautiful interior design, it's an emotional design book that explores what gives space meaning. And we're going to talk about that. Will you please join me in welcoming?
Hello. Now that the hard part's over.
Woo, okay.
Yeah.
Now we can just settle in. Yeah. Now it's just us chatting.
Oh.
There you are. Does that make you uncomfortable? Have you right behind me like that?
I told you, lesbian chic.
Yeah.
There she is.
Yeah.
Ah! Thank you guys for having me. I'm really excited to be here. So.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. And before I start, can I see how many students are here in the audience? How many of our... You're a student, but you don't go here.
That's okay.
You're a student. Okay.
Don't be ashamed.
Any kind of student. You go to FIT. You go to Parsons. Sure. Okay. So quite a few. Quite a few. Okay. So there's a bunch of students.
Amazing.
And I'm really excited about that because part of what I was eager to share with you, so much of your experience is inspirational to people of all ages who are thinking about getting into this field, working towards getting into this field, and I want to share some of your early story with them to help them see a path that you took that wasn't always so easy. School.
Not easy. I'm actually really envious of an institution like this and your guys' education and kind of the fundamental tools that you're getting coming out of this. As a matter of fact, a lot of the people that work with me in our firm, even the woman who runs my entire firm, right there.
Right over here.
No pressure. From NYSID. And I think it's really interesting, you know, the beginning of my career was fueled by the same thing that it's still fueled by, which is passion and a commitment to story and to people. But it was hard, you know, it was really hard. And I would like to say that it changes with CAD, but it doesn't fully, although it does help, and there's undoubtedly, there's no doubt about that. But I think, you know, my firm in the beginning, especially when I started now, which is so weird to say way back when, but it was really about one thing, and that was meeting people and fantasizing a bigger life for them than they even thought was possible. You know, and it was, I'll never forget, I sold everything I owned to get my LLC, which was very official, and I got a $50 decal and put it in my living room, sold all my furniture, and I hired my first employee, Beth Brunner, and I was scared shitless because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pay this woman every week. And then I was like, oh wait, it's once a month, twice a month, okay, I'm fine. And you know, it was a lot of taking projects, and I took anything I could get, whether it was $10,000 for 5 rooms or $1,000 for whatever it was. It was really about getting out there and pushing and earning and learning. And that's really what the first 5 years of my company was. I think I kind of threw myself into anything and everything I could to educate myself about the fundamentals of a space and spatial planning and understanding scale and composition. But that is not what I think has fueled my success, or my growth, I should say, because I don't categorize myself as successful. I think I care about what I do. I just love what we do. I love design. I love meeting people. I love hearing about where they've been, where they're at now, where they want to go. It's my favorite thing in the world, you know. And I think everybody here probably feels the same way. You know, it can change. You can change people's life through this profession. Which, how many things can you say do that for people? And I've seen it. You know, you can move people through the worst times of their lives. You can show them things about themselves that they'd forgotten or they didn't know about. And so I think, you know, that's really what my goal is, especially with this industry, is I want it to mean something. You know, the beauty has to mean something. And that's, you know, what I hope this phase of my career is about.
Well, and that's so much the message of your book, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But I think it's also the message of how you present yourself to the world. And,
yeah.
And I think that that's such a powerful message to deliver. But tell me, so the first 5 years, you often
It's so dark.
well, but you often
so
refer to them
dark.
as in a way such a fun time for you because you were learning so much.
Yeah.
It was all new.
I was terrified.
You were terrified.
Yeah, well, I still am terrified, very different way. But I was terrified. I mean, you know, I knew that I loved doing what I did, and I had a perspective. You know, I may not have, I didn't have, you know, historically the path professionally and education wasn't there. But I sketched everything. I always drew everything. I always could walk into a space and automatically know what story I wanted to tell through it. And it was always from the people. You know, I've shared this 1,000 times, so I'm sorry if you've heard it, but, you know, growing up, we would go to these open houses, and it was never to me about the opulence of a home, but about the fantasy of the space and the stories. And like, this is the perfect corner for them to read to their daughter. There was no daughter. You know, this is the perfect corner for us to create a banquet moment under the window because they love the view. There's no people that love the view. And I'm doing the same thing now, but just implementing the actual stories and the narrative of people's experiences. And that's what was fun. So the first 5 years was really just hustle, hustle, hustle. It was get out there, work as hard as possible to get any project I could take on. And the vast majority of them cost me money. And that was okay. You know, I was willing to sacrifice in different areas of my life because it mattered to me what I was doing, and this job was more than just me. I didn't realize that you could live and work through your passion. I didn't grow up seeing that with my parents. They worked because they had to, and they hated it. And I didn't realize that there's this opportunity that I saw that I got to create and do something I love. And I was desperate to hold on to that. So the first 5 years were grinding. I would drop off my cards to anybody. I would take on projects. I'd be like, does your aunt need anything?
And he was losing money in the first 5 years on the project.
I'm not saying do it like I did it, but yeah.
When he was explaining that. He was actually paying for the project.
Yes. I was paying for Beth, okay? Because Beth knew CAD, okay? And she had a degree, and Beth was smart.
She was holding the firm.
That's right. I knew what I knew, and I knew what I didn't know. And I think that was also really important. And I think, you know, from there, projects grew. And, you know, the one thing that has never changed is my intention with everything I do, you know, and making sure that people understand that I really care about every detail. I really care about protecting people's experience through it. And so that never changed. And I think that is what has been one of the elements of the company's continued growth and evolution. And that was definitely in the beginning what kept me kind of being bounced around to other people.
Yeah.
Anybody that would have me.
So tell us briefly the turning point there. Tell us when you got that project that finally was of a scale that you could make money on the project.
The turning point for me wasn't the projects, it was the people I work with. And I think, I'm not gonna get emotional because it's been a long week.
Although it might happen.
And some of them are here.
Yeah.
Listen, you know, when you start a company doing something you love, it is this crazy gift. It really is. And it's scary, and it's tough, and it's complicated, and sometimes it's easier for others, which I've seen, and I'm like, how? And sometimes it's not, which for me, it wasn't easy. And that's fine because you believe in yourself and you believe in what you're doing and you're committed to that. But as you grow and as you evolve with your company and you start meeting people that you care about and that you respect and that you grow to love, and you start creating with them, and you start to grow in a very different way, it kind of doesn't become mine, it's ours. And so I think the biggest pivotal moment for me was, I mean, really when Holly Hayden, our design director, came in with me, and we were able to take on projects and work and do things that we could scale and grow and evolve in a smart way. We always protected the intentionality of what we did. And we just have this really great collaborative group of people that are fantastic. And now my commitment is protecting them alongside the creativity and the beauty that we get to do. So it's fun. You know, I had this fantasy when I started the company that it was going to be me and like 3 people, and we'd all sit around one table and we just like dream up the most beautiful projects. Holly's laughing because she's got rid of that table. And as we grew, I kept that table, folks. I was like, no, we're all going to work right here. She's like, no, I need to take a call. So I have to have a room to go take a call in. And so finally she said to me, what is it about this moment that matters to you? And I said, it's the collaboration. It's the conflict of ideas. I don't want this design firm to be me doing modern, boring spaces the same way and me being known for one thing. I want to hear what you think about this. I want you to disagree with me. I want to see your perspective on that. And she said, we can do that. And we worked together to grow and to scale the company, and we never lost that. And that is, for me, again, another really great marker of our growth and evolution. And there's definitely been projects that you look at and I'm like, wow, this was a big moment for us. We did Ryan Murphy's movie studios, which were much bigger than I think people will ever understand, but it was really unnerving, and we do this for a lot of clients that are creatives. It's really scary to create something for a creative, especially Ryan. Love you. But he's very particular, and he's pure in what he wants and what he needs. And we went in with a concept. We were told yes, and we saw him on the day of installation. Nothing else. And I was in an adult diaper. Holly was sweating feverishly. I feel like that's appropriate. And he loved everything. Didn't change an object. And I remember Holly and I looking at each other and having a moment going, okay. And this was unique because we had to create something. We took bits of the 30s and bits of the 70s and wove in the Viennese Secession in really contemporary ways. And that, for me, is really exciting because we all know how hard it is right now to create something that feels truly original. I don't know, that was a big moment. Sorry for my very long answers.
No, great.
Turned into my...
Oh my gosh, is that all the time we have?
By the way,
Okay.
I give my husband such shit about this because he's so long-winded, but listen to me tonight. Sorry.
Stay with what you just mentioned, though, about how hard it is to create something that looks original. Mm-hmm. Because there's so much talk in the design world today about this very challenge. Everything's feeling dated. Everything's feeling as though we've seen it already on Instagram or elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Tell me how you think about that and how you combat that.
I think it's great. Listen, I think what we have to remember is because of this culture of this fast, and we move on, and it's all trend-based, which I am always being asked, what is the trend? What's this? Which is my least favorite question ever, no offense, is that I think what's great about this is it's really giving people the opportunity to learn and for their eye to travel and to explore. I think it gives us an opportunity to work really hard to make something that's really beautiful. And when I talk about that conflict, that's where I think all the original ideas are. They're kind of hidden in the shadows of that conflict. The 70s and 30s on paper do not look like they should go together. But when you play around with them, you play around with scale and composition and materiality of things, you start to really unfold something that feels fresh and a perspective that's really unique. I mean, people have been creating such beautiful things for so long. I like the challenge, but I'm the eternal optimist with everything. So I'm like, bring it on. Let's see what we can do. You know, we had a client that wanted, just recently, it's like granny chic, we were calling it. She wanted modern and contemporary, but then also ruffles. And I was like, oh, what? But we came up with something that was so spectacular and so unique and felt wildly original. That excites me. That's great, you know. And I'm excited that people care enough about design that it's part of the conversation like this constantly. It took a long time. People figured it out with fashion a while ago, but home's mattering to people in a much more important way. So I'm thrilled about it.
So you mentioned your husband, Nate.
I've never heard of him.
He says the nicest things about you.
He better.
He was here, and he actually, all joking aside, I mean, when he talks about your work, you know, he says, honestly, Jeremiah's work is on a whole other level. And it was really, I mean, it actually was very, very sweet the way that he talked about it, and he clearly has such enormous respect for the work you do. Interestingly, and you've shared this with me in the past, when you two first got together, you were trying to keep a distance from the advice, the counsel, what he might have shared with you, because you wanted to go in your own direction. Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, listen, for those who don't know, when I met my husband, I was 26 years old, and he was not.
Let's just say that.
He's 41. And we were in two very different chapters of our lives. I had just, like I said, a month earlier, sold everything I had, including my car. to start this business. And then we met, and he lived here and I lived in LA, and this is such an overshare. But I would save up everything I had to get the cheapest red-eye flight, because I was the best one. I'd be on the dollar menu at Jack in the Box with 2 tacos, which I swear by. And I would come back and forth, and it was really important for me, always, that what I did, and that what I created was mine. For a lot of different reasons, but what I didn't realize at the time, and what did make the biggest difference, was that my husband always respected me. And even though we were in 2 different chapters of our lives, I mean, he had just finished his talk show. He was America's decorator. And he's the cutest.
He is.
He's pretty damn cute. He always respected me. He always was interested with what I thought was beautiful. He was never sanctimonious or judgmental. He was always been supportive. And there was moments where he'd be like, well, don't you want me to tell you what you should do? And I'm like, no. Just let me do it. Let's keep it separate. I got this flight. I'm going to get this business. Don't worry about it. And I did. And I think, but I'm not sure how that would have worked if I didn't have a partner that looked at me and respected, my opinion, respected my creativity. And we taught each other a lot throughout the process.
So when you say you taught each other a lot, so without taking his advice directly in the beginning, what did he teach you?
I think he taught me, well, the biggest thing about my husband, and he sounds like he'd be so thrilled if he was here.
We're so sorry he couldn't be.
No, it's better this way. My husband is like the most fiercely loyal person you'll ever meet. I mean, he will take care of you. He will do anything to help you. He's also like pure joy. I've seen him in a bad mood 3 times in 13 years. And that's not an exaggeration. Yeah. I cannot say the same. But he's always got this joy to him. And he also loves what he does. And I watched the way that he took care of the people around him, and it made an impression on me. That was one of the things that I remember thinking to myself, okay, I want to feel that. I want to look around and have people that I've worked with for years that I can just be like, and they know exactly what I'm thinking, and vice versa. I think I gave him some freedom creatively because I like to fuck things up. I like weird. I like to try new things. I like a different perspective. I'm not prescriptive with the way I think a space needs to be created and the way it needs to feel. I think there's so many things to do. And so with that balance, and he's so rooted in tradition, and his design growth was in auction houses. So he knew everything, and I would hear, and we'd sit on the floor for the first 5 years of our marriage and look at books and talk through beauty and what we found beautiful. And so I don't know, we gave each other permission in a lot of different ways, especially in the beginning as we kind of developed.
And I want to talk a little bit about some of your work as we go through, just because I want to share. But tell me how you began to think about your work. You've talked about conflict and about not being afraid to combine lots of different elements. But tell me how you came to think about.
The one thing I did not want to be known for, and it still stresses me out, is for doing one thing. And the reason I don't want to be known for doing one, like coastal, I don't want to be known for that. I don't want to be known for, not that there's anything wrong with coastal. I love
sorry,
coastal.
all you coastal people.
No, I love coastal.
No, loves coastal. No,
I just don't want to be known, like it's like, oh, he does, Bauhaus so well. Like, I don't want to be known for that because nobody is the same. And my clients are all so different. What I've always wanted to be known for is somebody that says, he's going to create a house that feels exactly like you. That he's going to know, he's going to figure you out in 2 seconds, and your house is going to be, you're going to walk in and say, oh, this looks just like me. And so that has really been kind of the North Star, so to speak, of the design from the process. And lucky enough, like I said, we've met people, and I have this opportunity to work with people who are also talented and have different perspectives, and we've been able to protect that. You know, the vast majority of our work will never see the light of day, which I'm fine with. You know, some things wish they did, but I'm really proud of the work that we do and the work that we continue to develop, and how we each kind of always are pushing ourselves to think about, okay, how can we craft this differently? What can we do that's more special? You know, one of the things that we started doing, and this is good maybe for some of you students, another thing from not having a conventional background is I had to think about things in a very different way with how we present and how we sell our idea, or how we share it, as I like to say. And we start our process always with, we create what we call the soul of the space, of the home. And it is this beautiful document that's laid out that is kind of this visual diary of the way things need to feel, words that can really tether people to the experience. And we try to articulate in a way what overall this experience should look like and feel like. And it's been, really informative and really special for us, especially throughout the process, because we always go back to it. And it's, again, like this North Star through the process. And I think it also helps clients understand that I'm not here to mark up pillows for you, although we do, just a commission. I'm here to make something uniquely yours. And I don't know, I think that's a really unique part of what we do.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you learned to get at the heart of what people really want and who they are, to make that home, that space that keeps them?
Oh my God, guys, I don't know. I think I'm not the best designer you're ever gonna meet, obviously. There's probably 1,000 designers. There's probably a lot of people in here that are better. But what I do know I do really well is listen. And I love to meet people. I'm curious about everything. I love to hear about where they've been, where they want to go, what they haven't done, what they're afraid of, what they love, what they've lost. And I love to think about that manifested in a space. You know what I mean? The impetus around the space that keeps you is that, Nate and I have moved 10 times in 10 years. And I meet these people, and I'm like, what is wrong with us? Why can't we just stay somewhere? Like, what the fuck is wrong with us? And I remember, I've got 2 children now, and I've got this fantasy of them, looking at floorboards that have scratches from them running, and dance parties. They're in the kitchen, and always looking at a kitchen island. So that was really kind of what this was about. And now with the firm, the real conversation has been, what can we create somebody that will last? That is not just an expression of conventional beauty, but the beauty of their experiences, the beauty of what they value, how can we create a space that nobody wants to leave? And so that's kind of what we're pushing ourselves with now. Less transactional. I mean, listen, I'm on design television. It's the epitome of transactional.
Yeah, I was going to say, really.
But
I don't know if you're the best
I'm swimming upstream. I'm changing
okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't prescribe to it. But even on our show, to be honest with you, when we did the Nate and Jeremiah home project, we tried to shift how even people were talking about their home. We started with us, share your items with us, talk through objects, let's get to know your story through there. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think it's a really exciting season for design.
Well, and I want to get deeper into that, and I want to talk more about the book. I also want to plant the seed with all of you that we are shortly going to open it up for questions and come around with microphones. So
please ask questions.
If you have questions, I'm particularly eager for people to ask Jeremiah questions.
Yeah.
And Jeremiah's eager.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Right?
Yeah, I love questions.
He loves questions.
Yes, this is my favorite part.
So yes, that's really why he came.
Nothing's really off limits, folks. Come on.
Yeah. So. But I want to talk work really quickly. So
okay.
So tell us what we're looking at here.
This is a bar. One of my.
Okay, great. We're gonna zip through these. Great. This is a living room.
That's a table.
Okay, great. So it's 2 stools and okay.
No, I think this home was unique because these people are like the warmest, kindest people in the world, and they've got a little girl, and there's all these moments that we've designed a home for them prior to this, and then they moved into this really contemporary architecture which didn't look anything like them, but also not judging, fine. And so this was really an exercise in kind of all of these little moments throughout this big open space are things that they do throughout the day. The ritual of coming in with keys and the front, that center table meant a lot to the mother. They sit and read every night to their daughter, so that was this little nook, this area by the fireplace. Every morning, the father comes out and has coffee by the fire, so we created a whole moment there. So again, it's like the ripple of their story throughout their space. It wasn't like, this should be 2 sofas, 2 chairs, and a lamp. It was, what does this space need to be for you? And then going backwards. That is my old kitchen, guys.
Yeah.
That got me through COVID right there. Except for no fresh branches, because I was terrified. This house was so special because we moved, I campaigned, we moved to LA, and it was not for me. And I campaigned to get our family back, and we left this like 1920s Spanish colonial home, and we found this house that was 17 feet wide. You could touch it on 4 walls, and it was perfect. It was amazing. We used every square inch of it. That kitchen island, there was a lot of dance parties around it with the children. They'd actually stand on the island. It was a good house. But this, was like clean and simple.
Yeah.
This is a nice representation of my husband and I and our style evolution and how different we are. My husband loves anything wicker. With the floor lamp, anything wicker. It's like a trigger in our house. I'm not kidding.
We'll move off of that. Clearly, it's very emotional.
Let's jump into it.
Yeah.
This was a kitchen that we designed in Brentwood. We wanted it to be really indoor-outdoor, and we wanted it, you can't really tell because we worked really hard to hide the cabinetry and to make it clean, but there's a lot going on in here, and it was massive. Even the photos didn't do it justice, but we wanted it to feel light and ethereal. She always talked about standing at the kitchen and looking out and feeling the sunlight on her head. So this whole space was inspired by that light coming through. This is an entryway. Again, this is actually a new build. And we worked really hard to encourage the architect to let us make everything feel old. We didn't want anything to feel new. We played with scale a lot. Those floors are custom floor design that we worked on. It was a floor that I had seen in Venice in a church that I snuck into. And yeah, again, it was a lot of indoor-outdoor mixed materials. You can see the different design eras, 30s, 40s, 70s. Just playing with everything. They like to entertain.
Yes.
They wanted, I think it was a 20-foot bar. It's massive. And all marble. They wanted everything to be marble. So we channeled the front, worked on that really beautiful bullnose effect rounded the sides, and then the bar is all plaster and kind of opens up. These are snakes that I'm obsessed with, obviously. And we have it looking like it's coming in and out of the plaster, and it opens up, and there's a beautiful bar inside. So the room can be as quiet as you need it to be, or as fun and alive as you need.
So you're okay with ornamental snakes? It's actual snakes.
I just don't need to see one slithering past me. But I'm not the spider guy. I'm the snake guy, though. I can handle a snake. Okay. Nate can't handle snakes.
Or any animal that we could.
Anything alive that's not a human being. Is not.
He was not loving the whole pet thing.
This is my store Atrio in LA, which was a really fun exercise. This was a commercial space with no soul, completely open, and I wanted it to feel like the most beautiful home walking through. And there was no natural light, so we played with artificial skylights. The whole thing is rooted in the 5 senses. Most of you are young, which is so good for you. But when I was growing up, you'd go to Macy's home department store or Gottschalk's, and I would walk through, and I could imagine, if I had a house, I'd have that duvet, I'd have this candle, I'd have that sofa. And so that was what Atrio was supposed to be. It's like a modern day take on that same thing. So it's all 5 senses you could walk through: smell, touch, sound. There's a fountain in the entry. But I love that space. That is a house here in New York, yeah. Oh no, this is uptown, it's right around the corner. This was a couple that took over the home from his mother. And she's fantastic, his mother, not to be messed with. And they wanted a space that they could entertain that felt sophisticated. It was really dark when we got there. It was a really magnificent apartment though. And so we brought the light in. That is a twig.
Yeah, that is a stirring image. I'm so glad that we could include. Yes.
My inspiration was nature.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a fraud. That's my house now.
Yes.
That was my house this morning. So this dining room has actually gone through a lot of different iterations. Actually, it changed because of my book. We, of course, don't like take our own medicine, and we put a dining table in the center of it, and we're like, this will be great, and we'll entertain. We don't entertain. And we never used the room. We would use it. It was very transactional. We just walked through it. And when I started writing the book, I kept thinking about all these moments as we were, starting our family. And I remembered the first home that we brought our daughter home to. We had this rental in LA, and they had this huge banquette in the kitchen, and we lived on it. I rocked Poppy to sleep in it. We've solved the problems of the world in that banquette. And so we made it here. We created 2 cabinets on the other side. We put the banquette in the center. Added some mirror to reflect the light. And then there's 2 chairs in there. That's my chair on the left that I read to the kids in every single night. And I snuggle them every single morning. And that's Nate's chair where he sits and yells at me. A piece of shit. But I love him.
Okay. Oh, look.
That's my book.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, look at that. So, let's talk about the book.
Okay.
When did you start working on the book?
2.5 years ago. It took me 2 years to write it, and a lot of time and a lot of Julie Horowitz's tears to make it come to life. I don't know where she's at. It was born from a conversation we were having with a friend, and I was talking about home and love and life, and again, this idea of, never leaving, and she said, you should write a book. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, if I'm going to write a book, it has to be something special. I don't want it to just be arbitrary and just pictures of pretty beautiful things. I was like, I'm really interested in the space that keeps you. And she said, that's your book. And so that's where it started.
As you talk about, it's not your typical coffee table.
No. I didn't design anything in there.
Design book.
Well, I guess I did our house in there.
Your house.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's really these moving, beautiful stories, and it's a scrapbook of sorts, right?
Yeah.
Of these lives lived.
Yeah, it's like
spaces.
if I handed you my journal, which is what I was keeping throughout the course of I mean, when I tried to sell the book, everybody looked at me and their eyes glazed over. I was like, it's a design book, not about design. And they're like, what? When I started writing it, I was terrified because I didn't know really what was going to come through or what was going to happen. But it really is love letters from these people that I've met over the course of the last 15, 20 years that have never left their spaces. I would interview them and talk with them, and then I photographed it the way that they described the home. So the images have an intimacy to them. It's funny, I start the book off with, it's not going to be a beautiful design book. And the irony is it's all about beauty, but a different type of beauty.
It is. It's very different. It's very unexpected.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you talk about...
It's not about Bouillon Fringe or...
Exactly.
There's no... I'm sorry. It's just...
There's not enough trim in the book,
No.
which is really what I was going to talk to you about.
You sound like Holly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the fabric industry is a little upset about how this book is turning out.
It's it's garbage.
But, yeah. But you write in the book, I wrote this book because I was curious about the houses that become more than a transaction, as you were alluding to before, that become a love story. And I found what I was looking for. The twist of this design book is that design only goes so far. What really makes people stay in a home is the emotional life that emerges within the space that keeps you.
Right.
And you really get at the story of these people's lives, including your own story with Nate and the kids.
But that's the great thing about what we do. We get to help craft that. We get to help craft these spaces that can do this, that can hold people. You know, that's why when I talk about the dining room, the epiphany for me is, yes, we had created space that was beautiful before, but it didn't tell any story. When you walk into our house now, there is an intimacy that you feel with the second you walk in, because you can see how we live in it and how we create in it and what we do. And so that was what I loved about this book, and kind of understanding, you know, how people lived in these beautiful, authentic, honest ways. I mean, the most important spaces that you're ever going to see, the ones that are the most impactful, have nothing to do with how much money people spend. They don't. I mean, half the time they're really rich, don't know how to spend their money the right way. Allegedly. And the most important spaces I've been in have nothing to do with money, but everything to do with, you walk in and you're like, wow, okay, I know what you find beautiful. I know what your day looks like. And that for me is really exciting. I mean, Oprah's house, which she agreed to shoot, which she's never done before. And I was like, well, what's beautiful to you about the house? And she said, and the house is beautiful. But she said the trees. And I was like, so, and everything that she described when we were talking had nothing to do with inside the walls. It was only outside. And so when we decided to shoot the book, it was clear that we wouldn't shoot inside, even though that's what everybody wants to see. We would shoot what she saw as valuable and what she perceived as beautiful. And so, and I love her chapter. You know, it was always, you know, these trees and looking out at the trees, and I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That's us, that's our house that we live in now, which we got, I don't know if anybody knows or not, but we bought a house, we left the house, and I spent 8 years trying to get the house back. And that was when it didn't work.
And that
which is why we were drinking heavily.
Exactly. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was in the transition, though. We had built this, but then still held on to the center table. Yeah. It's a good house. It's funny, the crazy thing about, and I don't know how many people have had it, because it really obviously is a luxury to be in a home that you never have to leave and that you can keep. But Fifth Avenue for us, our house, always represented the future. You know, the kitchen island, we talked about having children at, our vows, the fights, the conversations, you know, the sacrifices that we had to do to have the house. It was always about the future. And now, being back in the house, there's so much past that's represented in it. You know, it's just this really wild thing. I've never been in a space that really held me like that. So it's really been interesting reading it, or writing it, going through the book and the process.
And it seems as though you realize that that's so much of the gift of what design can give people.
And it doesn't get enough play. I think we focus a lot in this industry on what's beautiful, and again, transactional beauty, this idea of, you know, let's create this and let's go, and this is of the moment. And I think we're storytellers at the end of the day. If we do it right, and if we do it well, we craft and articulate and orchestrate these really beautiful spaces that house the most important moments for people. Honestly, our house is, you know, every important moment's happened in that house. So that's what I'm trying to do, and trying to change the conversation around is, you know, design is impactful. It means a lot to have beautiful things and to elevate your life in a way that feels meaningful. But if we can work really hard to tell people's stories and to share their experiences through their house, well, that's never going to get old.
That's never going to get old. Okay, we're pressed for time.
Okay, questions.
We've got a book, and we've got a lot of other things.
Make them spicy.
But, okay.
I can't believe I said spicy.
Coming around.
You're not allowed to ask questions.
Okay.
You just pipe down.
Hi, I go to FIT.
Get out.
Get out. You're safe here. Don't worry. Don't worry.
I'm so sorry.
I'm going to take care of you.
We're not.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I'm scrappy.
I'm not. You'd win.
I didn't even go to school, so you're fine, okay?
But I'm finishing up my first year, and I was just wondering how your relationship with interior design has changed as you've gotten further into your career. Because I know, just even in my first year, it's changed so much, and even with different professors, it's changed so much. Like I had one last year that made me hate it, and this semester I'm finding love again for it.
Thank God she doesn't go to this school. Right?
But I was
This
just wondering.
sounds terrible.
God,
No, it's
awful.
really good.
You can
There's just one
transfer.
teacher.
I mean, hello. I mean, it's too late for this, but I mean, for next year. Anyway.
Yeah, I was just wondering how your relationship changes with interior design and how it kind of grows and throughout your career in that way, kind of, yeah.
I love it more than I did when I started, which is the truth. I think you are going to go through all these ebbs and flows, and you're going to feel all this outside pressure, and you're going to be harder on yourself probably than you need to be a lot. I wish I could say that that changes, but that means you're connected to it. You're connected to the process. And I would say the biggest advice, I hate giving advice, but I would say if you can find a way early to trust yourself and your instinct and to stay true to yourself and your instinct, that's all you have to hold on to, and that's all I've been able to do, and that's something that I always stick to, and the rest will figure itself out.
Thank you.
And fuck that teacher. Just kidding, we love teachers.
Who we're going to learn the name of tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, here. Hi, Jeremiah.
Hey, how are you?
I'm Krista. I'm a Mexican student here at NYSID. And as a new generation of interior designers, I've heard a lot of concerns about being replaced by machines with, like, we're not being replaced. I know that every one of us has, like, a mark. I can definitely say you have a mark. That's why I wanted to ask you this question. But how can you put yourself in a design without losing the person's design there? Like, if you want to create a soul for a specific person, how can you be there in the soul? How can you know it's Jeremiah and Oprah?
Well, first of all, I think we have to embrace technology. Otherwise, we're going to get left behind. And there are a lot of great things about technology. You know, I think there's an opportunity there for us to find a nice bridge. I think again, what people don't understand about this industry is it's just a conversation around conventional beauty. You can put in words, and there can be an algorithm that spits out a beautiful space, but that space isn't going to talk through the nuances of your grandmother and what it meant for her to sit in that kitchen underneath a window and the smell of coffee and what that means to that client. And so I think it's going to hopefully encourage us to ask different questions, things that you can't plug in and get just a visual response to. You know, what is this space seen you survive? I would love to see an AI translate that for you. So I think it's an exercise in us rethinking the way that we communicate beauty and the way we communicate story. And that's great. You know, you can say you love wicker, sorry, Nate, all you want, and it's gonna—
Touchy subject.
It's gonna throw out a million ideas, but I think we've got to lean into what this job really is supposed to be about, which is story. Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay, over here.
Hi, my name's Angel. I'm a second year, second year in the MFA 1 program for career changers. So this is actually a pretty important—
Congratulations.
for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What was your career before?
Software developer.
Software developer. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So one of the reasons why I got into this career or in this path is mostly for what you touched on, was actually making spaces for people. And that's actually what resonated for me. I was like, how can you love people through the arts? And that felt like the most plain way of doing that, right? Mm-hmm. But there's another part of it that's like, how do I show myself in my work? So like I'm working on my portfolio, and it's like, okay, what represents me? And so when I'm asked that question, like, I don't know, because I don't think like what represents me. It's more like, how do I serve other people? So how do you find that balance of like how to serve people, but also showing yourself in that space that you're creating, if my question makes sense?
It does make sense, and it's complicated. The answer is complicated. It takes, I think what I try to say is I'm not trying to give people anything other than my lens on how I see what they're sharing. You know, and that's why I think it's so important, at least for us internally, is that each of our client looks different because their stories are different. But I have a flair. I have certain things that I do and that I've figured out. You know, understanding that, you know, there's certain things that you love to do with a room, with the composition and playing around with it. Conflict was something that I figured out as like part of my lens, like figuring out a way that if you say you love Spanish colonial, okay, what does that mean? Where did it originate? How can we play around with this? What's similar? What can we do? So I think it's just an exercise for you to figure out when you create how you get to what you create, but don't make that what you're making, if that makes sense. Like use that pattern, but use their story. Does that make sense?
Okay. Okay, back here, yes.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. My name is Madeline, and I'm over here.
Hey.
I am also a design studio owner, and I am wondering what your biggest project disaster was, like a real sticker, and how you dealt with it,
How much
and
time
how
do
you
you
fixed
have?
like
Exactly.
literally all of the time.
My biggest project disaster is the only client I've ever fired. Look, she's triggered.
Sorry.
The thing about me, and that I learned, is I think that, and I thought that I could figure out anything with anybody. And that I'm not, it takes a lot to get me upset. I'm not confrontational. I'm really pragmatic, and I can see different perspectives, and I can forgive like nobody else. So we had a client that was an unhealthy combination of indecisive and just very problematic. And we worked really hard to try to figure out ways to, you know, pivot and shift. And, you know, we like this, but then we don't like this, then we would create this. Well, we don't like that now. I want to go back to what that was. And we worked really hard, and we were going around in circles. And when I realized that it wasn't healthy, obviously for myself, but I put myself last. But when I realized it wasn't healthy for the people around me and the company, that's when I knew it was time. And it was really hard. It was awful. I didn't like it. I felt like I had failed. But I realized, obviously, like any broken relationship, when it's over, that you give it what you can and that it's just not meant to be. But that was the biggest, you know, the biggest disaster I've ever had. And it was really complicated and layered. But I mean, shit happens all the time. But, you know, we are very honest and communicative, and, you know, when mistakes happen, mistakes happen. Like, that's what this job is. There's a million things happening, you know, better than anybody.
So before we wrap up.
Oh, that's it? All the questions?
Well, you know, because we're going to chop. We got time constraints and other things, but we can get to one or more questions. But
yeah,
let's just, suddenly everyone's like raising their hand, but you're getting ready to go away for a bit.
Yes.
I'm sorry to traumatize the office, because I know he's getting ready to go away.
Oh, they're traumatizing me this week. Don't worry.
Weeks at a time. Tell us briefly what's just happened for you, and what you're going off to do next.
I'm gonna go shoot Queer Eye. Yeah. Thanks. I didn't think anybody watched it.
He didn't realize it was a big deal.
I was wrong. Yeah, I'm gonna go start shooting the show, and I'm really excited because, well, for a lot of reasons. It's what I love to do, which is meet people and help them move through an experience through design. So I'm very excited about that part. I'm excited to go work with friends, people that I really love, that are great for the record.
Who may or may not have fought to bring you on. Whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, this is
that didn't happen.
Some drama. Drama, but none of it is
happen.
true. None of it is true, apparently.
They're good people, and they care, and I have fun with them. There's laughing, and I feel like a version of myself that I put away for a long time. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's gonna be a really good season.
Well, apparently the room is very excited about your addition to the show. You know what? I'm gonna let us move over there, and people can ask some questions. But I know that we want to be able to get to books if people want to buy.
Oh, so I'm gonna sign as I answer questions?
Well, you might. You might.
You've got a lot of faith in me.
I'm just saying,
Okay.
you know, you can multitask.
Of course.
Will you please join me in thanking Jeremiah Brent?
Oh, Thank you.
I know that your schedule is especially crazy these days. It is lovely of you to have made the time.
Thank you.
It's a thrill for the school and everyone to have you. So
Well, I'm thrilled to be
really,
here. Thanks for letting me in the building.
We thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.